I am here before you to tell you, categorically, that Machiavelli is dead. For years our thinking was distorted by presenting us with a false dilemma when designing public policies, where one had to choose political efficiency as opposed to respect for the ethical and moral values of the West. Put in raw terms, when designing public policies, it is unacceptable from the ethical and moral point of view to sacrifice justice on the altar of efficiency. This principle in favor of values is not only above economic efficiency, but is even far above what political utilitarianism is. Thus, by setting aside ethical and moral values, this leads to policies that are not only unjust, but also lead to collapse not only economically, but also on the social level, to the point that it could end up destroying Western civilization itself. And the policies that had been promoted by different international organizations and forums were nothing more than a whole set of socialist policies elegantly wrapped to deceive people with noble and beautiful souls, with good intentions, but with the same catastrophic results as always. Finally, we have the entrepreneurial spirit, or rather, the entrepreneurial function, which according to Professor Huerta de Soto, Spanish economist, constitutes the main engine of the process of economic growth. Since although the three factors mentioned are important, without entrepreneurs there will be no production and the standard of living would be extremely precarious. Where the entrepreneurial function does not focus so much on short-term efficiency, but rather on the growth in the quantity of goods and services, which results in higher standards of living. Without going any further and beyond the continuous disasters caused by socialism during the 20th century, we see the aberrant damage caused in Venezuela, and not only due to an 80% drop in its GDP, but even wise still, in light of the establishment of a bloody narco-dictatorship whose terrorist tentacles spread throughout our entire American continent. Today, the defense of the capitalist system of free enterprise must be based on its ethical and moral virtue. This is, as Israel Korchner points out, today's socialists do not deny the superiority of capitalism in terms of production. They question it for being unjust. Therefore, it is not enough for the system to be more productive, since if its roots were unjust, capitalism would not deserve to be defended. In this sense, in Argentina, thanks to the management of Minister Sandra Petrovello, for vulnerable sectors we have stopped giving them fish, to teach them how to fish and, if possible, to motivate them to create their own fishing company. I want to leave you with a reflection on this week's Parasha, Torah reading portion. The Parasha Bo describes the moment when Moses confronts the Pharaoh, a symbol of the oppressive power of the state, to warn him that if he did not free the Hebrew people, the last 3 plagues would fall upon Egypt. Faced with the Pharaoh's refusal came the plague of locusts, which signifies famine. Then came the plague of darkness, which signifies the loss of clarity in decision-making. Finally, the plague of the death of the firstborn, which clearly reveals the destiny of a society that denies freedom. The analogy with what is happening today in the West is tremendously clear. Some time ago, the West, for some strange reason, began to turn its back on the ideas of freedom. And that is why in this very place, in the year 2024, I stated that the West is in danger as a result of having embraced growing doses of socialism in its most hypocritical version, which is wokism. In 2025 I explained the mental parasites that the left planted in humanity. However, 2026 is the year in which I bring you good news. The world has begun to awaken. The best proof of this is what is happening in the Americas with the rebirth of the ideas of freedom. Therefore, the Americas will be the beacon of light that reignites the entire West, and in doing so will repay its civilizational debt as a show of gratitude toward its foundations in Greek philosophy, Roman law, and Judeo-Christian values. We have a better future ahead of us. But that better future exists if we return to the roots of the West. That is, by returning to the ideas of freedom. May God bless the West. May the forces of heaven accompany us. Long live freedom. Damn it.